Hi guys, welcome back or welcome to DreamWorks Switch to Life. And for today's video, we are going to be continuing our Kung Fu Panda review marathon leading up to the upcoming Kung Fu Panda 4. And this time, we will be discussing our second movie in the Kung Fu Panda Secrets series, Kung Fu Panda Secrets of the Masters, which I gotta say was a pretty good short film. It definitely wasn't as good as some of the others because, well, it doesn't focus on characters who we've come to know and love. Instead, it focuses on a few background characters from the second movie that we don't even get the chance to care about. But I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. First, let's talk about the animation. I felt like the animation for this was actually really great, especially when it came to both the 3D and 2D department, which most of this film is traditionally animated, but I love what they do with that style of animation. It's amazing. And then there's the normal animation, but I mean, it's not really trying to be show-offy or anything. It's just there to provide a setting for why we're being told this story. And I felt like it was a really good way to tell the story of the Master's Council by going to their museum. And then there's the voice acting for this thing, which I really enjoyed. We brought Jack Black, Randall Kim, Angelina Jolie, Seth Rogen, and Dustin Hoffman to play their respective characters, but sadly, we did lose two of the actors for the Master's Council, as only Master Ox's actor from the second movie reprised his role in this short. The other two, Masters Thundering Rhino and Master Croc, were played by brand new actors. But despite that, I felt like all across the board, the voice acting was good. The music was also pretty iconic, mainly due to the fact that it's just taken from the movie soundtracks, but still, it was nice. And then, of course, there's also the actors of Suwoo and the Wu sisters, and I felt like they all had their chance to shine, and I love how villainous they are, and really showcases how big of a threat these guys are, especially when it comes down to their actions and how they attack innocent villages and cause peaceful villagers to just be homeless, and really showcases why they're such a threat to China. And I felt that was really good. But I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, so I guess with all that out of the way, it's time to dive into the actual story. So the story is Masters Ox, Master Croc, and Master Rhino, not quite masters yet, are just street fighting using Kung Fu until, out of the blue, Master Oogway notices that one of the Wu sisters, the most dangerous threat in all of China at the moment, has escaped from prison along with the aid of the other Wu sisters who escaped earlier in the short. Knowing that he couldn't defeat the Wu sisters himself, he decided to recruit the aid of Masters Ox, Croc, and Rhino in order to come together and form the Master's Council, although they wouldn't call themselves that at the time, and he forced them to go on a mission with him where they would be given riches.
As in emotional riches.
We've been conned. My father always said, never trust a turtle.
All the while, they're bickering over who should take the most riches home and a bunch of other stuff, but Master Oogway is trying to teach them that by working together, they can achieve the impossible, things they would never be able to do on their own. And at the very end, Oogway makes a sacrifice by just taking their place. Instead of letting them fall off the lava falls, he falls off in their stead. And he tells them to remember the path, a reference earlier to another piece of wisdom from Oogway.
When the path you walk always leads back to yourself, you never get anywhere.
Without Oogway there to guide them, however, they just felt like they wouldn't be able to take on the Wu sisters, so they left, and it's only when they see the devastation and destruction that the Wu sisters have caused that they finally decide to step up, change course, and fight the Wu sisters. And in the process, they finally learn to use Kung Fu for honor instead of for personal gain. And I felt like The Wu sisters, they had a good plan, allying all of the threats of China together to amass an army that would take down all of the mightiest warriors in China, namely the Kung Fu masters. But unfortunately, the mighty army that they assembled just up and left. That was kind of a weak point of this movie, and I felt it was a bit bad. I liked the Wu sisters' plan of using a giant army of threats to take over, but the fact that we don't actually get to see the threats in action is really disappointing, especially because they're already assembled there in the building and they just flee. And of course, the reason that they flee is because Master Oogway manages to defeat them, put them in a cage, and blah, 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 blah. But then we come to a fight between the Wu sisters and the Master's Council, 3-on-3, and it really showcases how the two teams are actually working together for the very first time. And while we see the Master's Council trying to utilize their skills, which includes Master Croc's impenetrable hide, Master Thundering Rhino's unstoppable force, and Master Ox's keen eye for weaknesses, they end up finally defeating the Wu sisters, recapturing them, and thus the short ends with Po revealing the Master's Council being formed in Ganmen City, which leads to a discussion of the events of Kung Fu Panda 2 before Master Shifu shows up and tells Po to fix the hole that they made in the ceiling when they broke into the museum. I mean, that's nice. And I felt like the 3D part, where Po and the Furious 5 break into the museum, that was just there to provide a reason for us to get the main story, which was really good. And I felt like the short could have done without the whole museum part, but it was nice that it was included. And then the main story itself, it was awesome. I loved it. It had some really good pacing and definitely felt like it was worth the 23-minute runtime that it took. I don't really have many issues with this short. I mean, the issues that I do have more to do with the museum part than the actual story part. And that's okay, I guess, because we're not really watching this thing to see Po and Tigress and Mantis break into a museum. We're watching this so that we can learn the history of how the Master's Council was formed. And that's really important, and I love that we're getting this piece of Kung Fu history. So, if you're wondering how and when you can watch this film, well, unfortunately, the only way to watch it right now is to buy it. You can either do that on digital streaming or get the DVD, one of the two. In terms of when this film actually takes place, that's a confusing question. So the present day sequences with Po and Tigress and Mantis breaking into the museum, that takes place after the second Kung Fu Panda film, but before the third Kung Fu Panda film. But the past sequences, those take place way before Po was even born. So there's that. They do make a couple references to Kung Fu Panda, but there's nothing spoilery. It's just location and name of a character. That's it. Overall, I felt like this was an amazing short. It's great that we get this history of the Kung Fu Panda franchise, and it was kind of weird with the museum part, but I'm glad that it was actually included instead of us just getting the flashback sequences, because it gives us a reason to actually hear this story, which alone is amazing, but it's great that it's accompanied by the stunning 2D animation elements and traditional animation sequences. So that's it for my review on Secrets of the Masters. I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video, and please make sure that you like and subscribe so you can keep up to date on all things DreamWorks and any future Kung Fu Panda reviews that I will be posting in the lead up to Kung Fu Panda 4. Please make sure that you are also staying safe out there, and I will see you all in the next one. Until then, bye-bye.
And how do you know this?
A little birdie told me.
Hey, how's it going?